Hello ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Ascending Abundance YouTube channel, where I explore various strategies on how to get rich quick. It's not going to be easy, and it definitely has to be legit, but there are ways of making money quicker than the traditional markets, and I'm exploring various options on how to make this happen. So in this particular video, I am focusing on purchasing land for future development. This strategy had served many people over the years, and it basically means you buying a plot of land that can be developed into something substantial, like a row of townhouses, or maybe a couple of custom homes, or maybe just one custom homes, or maybe multi-unit. We don't know, but the goal is to purchase that land with a building. So not just an empty plot of land that is going to tie up your money and cost you insurance and mortgage over the time. And my goal is to find a property that has some potential. It could cash flow, maybe even negatively, but it could be covering whatever the expenses that are required to carry it. And then 10, 15, 20 years down the road, by the time I retire, by the time my kids grow up, this land is eventually going to be worth way more. The building can be torn down. It could be updated, of course, but ideally I'm looking into eliminating any construction that's already on that property and potentially building something new and then selling it for a good profit, or keeping it as a longer term rental, but more upscale, more number of units. Hopefully you get the idea. So the screenshot that I got here, the screen that I got here in front of you, basically says I'm in Toronto, Ontario, and I'd like to know how many properties I can buy up to $550,000. Kind of arbitrary number, just something that I believe is fairly cheap in our environment, that has at least 2 bedrooms, at least 1 bathroom, so there is a building, and something that ideally has a nice size land to it. Nice size definition is kind of vague. I've explored it with a friend of mine who is a developer. So something that's 100 by 200 feet would be phenomenal. If I can get something that is, say, 80 by 120, I'll be happy as well, because that will allow me to build something there in the future. Maybe a triplex, maybe a quadruplex. Let's say it's a semi-detached house where both sides are split horizontally, so it becomes an upper unit and a lower unit, something of that nature. I'll show you some examples later. So what I am hoping to find is a plot like that in the GTA, Greater Toronto area, and it's impossible. All you get is a couple of condos that are also set as freeholds. They're not freeholds, those are condominiums. So I've set this on realtor.ca, residential for sale, 100 to 550, freehold, that's the key, ownership type. We do search, and there is nothing really in the GTA that you could find. Stepping outside of GTA, we love going north. That's where the development is kind of progressing. I can tell you that Innisfil, in here you get some communities that are just retirement communities. You pay land lease. It's by far not ideal, and these are the units that you could see there. They're cheap by our standards, 260, 350. That right away kind of tells you that this is not likely what we're searching for. Super nice homes, all of that good stuff, but you have a land lease. So we don't want this. We don't want a land lease. Searching more, let's say in the city of Barrie, that's when you can get a little more decent. So in Barrie, there are a few properties that actually have a plot of land. They're actual freeholds, like this nicely renovated building. It's a little bit older, and it has a 165 feet lot, so very nice, but the frontage is only 33. So the most I can build there is maybe one home. It could be a custom home, but it won't be big, and it's not something that I'm looking for. So this one's out. The other two are nothing spectacular either. There's little tiny homes that are going for 550, it's going to be impossible to rent this one for more than say 2,200, maybe a little bit more, but that's about it. It's not going to carry itself, and the size of land is, where's the size of land? There, just 32 by 84, so definitely not a big size of land. So in the city of Barrie, this is also impossible to find. Now, as we go out of the city and into, let's say, Aurelia, which is a little bit further north, so you're talking about an hour and a half drive from Toronto, this is getting way more interesting. So, for example, I set my eyes on this one or that one. So, let's say here, 525, I'm rounding it up, 525, it's a neat little home, 200 feet deep lot, a lot of acreage, right? It's older, and if we go down, does it say the land size? 50. So 50 by 280, 208. Not a phenomenal. It's probably going to be tough to build a semi on it. It doesn't have enough frontage to build a semi, but maybe somehow I could squeeze that in, given that the lot is so deep. Maybe the house could be positioned somehow into the inside. It's an older one. It definitely needs a reno. Like, look at this. It's all wooden. It's all kind of non-standard shape for the modern standards, but it's livable. It may require just some recasing, getting rid of these wood panels, unless we want to keep them. Definitely getting rid of some of this stuff on the top and the wallpaper. Repainting some of the rooms. Let's say, take a look at this one. It definitely needs to be repainted. The trim needs to go. I probably would replace the trim and the baseboards. The carpet likely needs to be replaced with laminate. So a little bit of work. Say it's 525. We happen to make 500 out of it. You put in another, say, 25 to 30 into a reno. So all in all, just round it up with the land transfer taxes and everything. Let's say it's 550. At 550, it's going to cost, let's say, $3,000 to carry, which is mortgage plus insurance plus property taxes and maybe some maintenance. So it should be about $3,000. For $3,000, we're talking probably negative cash flow of, let's say, $500 to $800 a month, depending on how well this one rents. And your down payment is obviously tied up. That's another 120, say, K that is just tied up in this property. So certainly not a phenomenal scenario. But then again, a couple of years pass by, you could refinance this mortgage. Hopefully the interest rates drop a little bit. Hopefully rents go up over time. You're kind of still negative cash flowing, even maybe in 5 years time, but not as much. And then over time it will definitely start breaking even. And after that, so let's say we invest an extra, I don't know, maybe 50K. Let's say it costs you 50K of negative cash flow to carry this thing for, let's say, 10 years time with all of the renovations and everything. So 600,000. All in all, I could say I've owned a home with a nice plot of land. Again, this is sort of middle of Aurelia. I don't know this neighborhood that well. It will require some research, but it's close to the lake. It's not too far from Toronto. Aurelia is growing. It does have a hospital. It does have some jobs. It's kind of a hub for the community that is up north for the cottage country. So I would say it could be a good opportunity. And what sparks my interest, what specifically makes me think about these land with the house options, is that they're, number one, not making more land, and number two, if prices had not fallen as yet with the interest rates these high and the potential for recession and mortgages at 5-6% rates depending on what you find, then it is unlikely that this house with such a lot will be cheaper. And I tell you that the plot of land in my neighborhood would be millions of dollars. So 50 by 200 would be selling for, I don't know, $3 million in GTA. And this is an hour and a half away. It certainly is not worth $3 million today, but it could be $3 million in, let's say, 15 years time from now. The city is expanding, the number of immigrants is crazy. Aurelia has an old stack of houses. If they start remodeling and redeveloping, we will see the value of this property go up substantially. So I'm talking to my wife. Let's see what she says. Obviously not excited over carrying a negative cash flowing property. We need to think about how do we do it and if we do it. But that's one way to potentially invest today, give it 10-15 years and make $1 million. Reasonably, if you tear down this house, put in a semi, both sides are going to be 2,000 square feet. Let's say it costs $250 to build per square foot, so we're talking about $1 million in construction. Say $500,000 to $600,000 is the land. Then we're say that's 1.6. Let's say give it another 100,000 for financing, development charges, whatever. Let's say it's 1.7. All in all, 1.7. You could sell in 10 years time, let's say discounted even to today's values, 2,000 square feet, brand new, nicely built semi. Each side could easily go for $1 million, easily, probably more, 1.1, 1.2, depending on how well you make the finishes. So I totally see a couple $100,000 just materializing out of this project. Is that a lot? Well, that's definitely not enough to get you retired, but $200,000, $300,000, I don't make that in my job in a year. Minus the taxes, minus all kinds of issues, and I don't think I make that in 2 years, to be honest, net, taking home. So making, let's say, 2 years of your salary on one particular property, that's pretty neat. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Thanks so much for subscribing or clicking that like button or just listening to me. If you want to partner up, you have any questions, any suggestions, if you want to make some deals together or explore some options, give me a shout, send me a comment. I'll be happy to address those. Thanks so much.